Two women, one man, and a web of lies that ends in tragedy. When love turns into obsession, no one walks away clean.
I always believed that my husband, Daniel, was the most transparent man in the world. He wasn't just my husband, he was my best friend, my confidant, my calm in every storm. For 12 years, I thought we had built something unshakable. Our little house in Portland, our Saturday morning rituals, our laughter echoing in the kitchen over burnt pancakes. It felt real, solid. Until the day I realized that the man I loved had been living a second life, one I wasn't part of. It started so quietly that I almost didn't notice. Daniel began taking business trips more often. At first it was once every couple of months, then once a month, then twice. He said the company was expanding, that they needed him to manage a new branch in Seattle. I was proud of him. He'd worked hard for that promotion. I packed his bags, kissed him goodbye at the airport, and told him to text me when he landed. But somewhere deep down, a part of me started to ache. He stopped calling at night. His texts became shorter. Busy, babe, long day, or talk tomorrow, miss you. Those used to be followed by heart emojis, but even those faded over time. I told myself not to overthink. Everyone warned me about becoming a paranoid wife. I refused to be that. One evening, I was scrolling through Facebook while waiting for him to return from another trip. A notification popped up, "People you may know." I barely glanced, but one name caught my eye. Melissa Carter. The profile picture was a family photo, a woman holding a small boy and a man who looked eerily familiar. My breath caught. I zoomed in. The man's smile, the eyes, the dimples. It couldn't be Daniel. For a second, I laughed nervously to myself. Maybe it was just someone who looked like him. Maybe I was being crazy. But the resemblance was too strong to ignore. I clicked on her profile. It was private, but the cover photo was visible. A beach picture, dated 2 months ago. The man had his arm around his waist, wearing the same watch I'd gifted Daniel for his birthday. My hands started to shake. I tried to calm myself down, told myself it could be a coincidence, but my gut screamed otherwise. So I did something I'd never done before. I opened his laptop. He had left it on the kitchen counter before his last trip. I hesitated, staring at it for what felt like an hour. Then I took a deep breath and opened his email. At first, everything looked normal. Work messages, newsletters, random receipts. But then I saw a folder labeled Personal. Inside, there were dozens of emails with the name Melissa Carter. My stomach twisted as I opened one. It read, "Can't wait to tuck Ethan in tonight. He keeps asking when Daddy's coming home." I felt like the floor disappeared beneath me. Ethan? Daddy? He wasn't just seeing someone else. He had a child with her. My heart pounded so hard I could barely breathe. My hands covered my mouth as tears blurred my vision. Every moment, every word, every promise, all of it suddenly looked like a lie. I scrolled further down and found photos. Him holding a little boy, him kissing Melissa on the cheek, him laughing, this same laugh I thought was mine. When the garage door opened that night, I didn't know what to do. I stood there, frozen, laptop open on the counter. He walked in, smiling, exhausted from his trip. His suitcase dropped when he saw my face. "Emma? What's wrong?" I turned the laptop toward him, the email still open. He froze. His eyes darted between me and the screen, and in that moment, I saw something break inside him. Fear, guilt, and a twisted kind of relief. "Please," he whispered, stepping closer. "It's not what you think." But the thing was, it was exactly what I thought.
I didn't say anything at first. I couldn't. The air in the kitchen felt thick, heavy, almost poisonous. Daniel just stood there, his lips parting as if he wanted to speak, but no sound came out. The silence stretched between us like a blade. When I finally found my voice, it was barely more than a whisper. "How long, Daniel?" He blinked, his eyes darting away from mine. "Emma, please, Just let me explain. I slammed the laptop shut so hard that it startled both of us. Explain what? That you have another family? That you've been lying to me for years? My words came out broken, trembling. I could feel my heart hammering against my ribs, begging to escape the cage of my chest. He ran a hand through his hair, pacing like a trapped animal. It wasn't supposed to happen like this. I laughed, sharp, bitter, ugly. What does that even mean? You accidentally tripped and fell into another life? He stopped pacing and turned toward me, his eyes red and watery. I didn't mean for it to go this far. Melissa and it started before you and I got married. The words hit me like a punch. My knees almost buckled. Before we got married? That was 12 years ago. He kept talking, his voice low, desperate. We were together back in college. She got pregnant right after we broke up. I didn't know until years later. When I found out, Ethan was already 5. I stared at him, unable to comprehend what I was hearing. My husband, the man I trusted with everything, had been living a double life long before I even knew him. So what? You just decided to keep both of us? Alternate between 2 lives like some kind of sick rotation schedule? He looked down at his hands, shaking. I thought I could handle it, that I could be there for my son without hurting you. I laughed again, though it felt more like crying. Without hurting me? You built an entire life behind my back, Daniel. You think that's not hurting? He stepped forward, his voice trembling. I swear, I love you. What I have with Melissa, it's not like us. It's complicated, but it's not love. It's responsibility. I backed away. You don't get to use responsibility as a justification for betrayal. He froze, his jaw tightening. I could see him struggling to hold himself together, but I didn't care. My mind was racing, rewinding every memory, every business trip, every excuse. The nights he said he was too tired, the days he was stuck in meetings. It all made sense now. Every lie was perfectly crafted. I walked past him and went upstairs. He followed, begging me to listen, to let him explain more, but I couldn't hear any of it. My body was on autopilot as I packed a small suitcase, just essentials. Emma, don't do this, please. We can talk about it. I turned to him, my hands trembling as I held the suitcase handle. You've had 12 years to talk about it. I'm done listening to your lies. He stepped closer, his voice softening. What about us? What about everything we've built? I stared at him, feeling a strange kind of calm settle over me. You built half of it with me and half of it with her. That's not a life, Daniel. That's a performance. He reached for my hand, but I pulled away. Emma, I love you. Please don't leave. Tears burned my eyes, but I shook my head. You don't get to love 2 people at once and call it devotion. You chose this. You chose to lie. I walked out the door, my heart breaking with every step. I didn't know where I was going, just away. Away from the house that no longer felt like home. Away from the man who had turned my entire life into a stranger's story. That night, I drove aimlessly until I ended up at my sister's house on the other side of town. She opened the door in her pajamas, confusion written all over her face. Emma, what happened? And that's when I broke. I fell into her arms, sobbing so hard I couldn't speak. She didn't ask questions, just held me while I collapsed under the weight of everything. When I finally caught my breath, I whispered, He has another family. Her arms tightened around me. Oh my God. We sat in silence for a long time, and in that silence, something inside me began to shift. The shock was fading, replaced by a slow, burning anger. I wasn't just heartbroken, I was humiliated, lied to, replaced. But as I lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling of my sister's guest room, one thought kept echoing in my mind. I need to know everything. I couldn't just walk away without understanding the full truth. Not anymore.
I didn't sleep that night. I just lay there in my sister's guest room, staring at the ceiling while the world outside slowly brightened into morning. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw his face, the look of panic when he saw the emails, the tremor in his voice when he said, "It's not what you think." But it was exactly what I thought, maybe even worse. By 7 a.m., I had made up my mind. If I was ever going to heal from this, I needed answers. Not the half-truths Daniel was ready to feed me, but the full story, every dark, ugly piece of it. I got up quietly, showered, and borrowed one of my sister's coats. I didn't even tell her I was leaving. I just needed to do this alone. Melissa Carter lived in Bellevue, Washington, about 3 hours away. I remembered seeing her city listed on Daniel's business travel calendar. I typed her name into Google, and within minutes, I found her. Her company website had her photo and a short bio. Melissa Carter, marketing consultant. Proud mom of one. Proud mom of one. My husband's one. I stared at the picture, studying her face. She was beautiful in a quiet, confident way. The kind of woman who didn't have to try too hard. She looked happy, safe. The kind of woman who believed her life was real. I hated her for that, for having what I thought I had. I didn't even plan what I would say when I met her. I just got in my car and drove. The whole trip felt like a blur. I barely noticed the rain starting to fall or the way my hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. I just kept driving. By the time I arrived, the rain had turned into a steady drizzle. Her house was modest, 2 stories, a red door, a small garden in front. There was a child's bicycle lying in the yard. My heart dropped. Ethan. For a moment, I just sat in the car, staring. Every instinct screamed at me to turn around, to leave, to let it go. But I couldn't. I had lived too long in ignorance. I needed to see the truth, even if it destroyed me. I walked up to the door and rang the bell. My heart pounded so hard I could hear it echoing in my ears. After a few seconds, the door opened. Melissa stood there, wearing jeans and a sweatshirt, her hair tied back in a loose bun. She looked surprised and wary. "Can I help you?" For a moment, I couldn't speak. My throat was tight, my mouth dry. Then I whispered, "I think you know my husband." Her face changed instantly. I saw the confusion melt into something else. Realization. Fear. She didn't ask who my husband was. She didn't need to. She just stepped back, her hand covering her mouth. "Oh my God." I nodded. "Daniel." She closed her eyes for a long moment, then gestured for me to come in. I followed her inside, my legs shaking. The house was warm, cozy, filled with the scent of coffee and cinnamon. There were toys scattered across the living room floor, and on the mantel above the fireplace, pictures. Pictures of them. Daniel with Melissa. Daniel holding a little boy, Ethan. Daniel smiling the same smile he used to give me. Does he know you're here?" she asked quietly. I shook my head. "No, he doesn't know I found out." She nodded, her eyes filling with tears. I was wondering when this day would come. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table. Neither of us spoke for a long time. The silence was heavy, like we were both afraid that speaking would make it too real. Finally, I broke it. "How long have you known about me?" She hesitated. "Since last year." That made my stomach twist. "And you didn't say anything?" Tears slid down her cheeks. What was I supposed to do? Tell you? Tell him? I thought if I stayed quiet, he'd make a choice. I didn't want to blow up both our lives. "He already did that," I whispered. Melissa wiped her face and looked at me,
her expression raw, vulnerable. He told me he was separated, that he didn't love me anymore, that he was trying to finalize things before he could move on. I believed him. My chest tightened. It was one thing to know he cheated. It was another to realize he'd been rewriting our story for someone else. I stared down at my hands. He said he was traveling for work. All those weekends, the late nights, it was all you. She nodded silently. Ethan calls him Daddy. He visits every few weeks, sometimes more. I swallowed hard. The thought of him reading bedtime stories, tucking his son in while I sat home waiting for his call was unbearable. Does he know? I asked softly. She shook her head. He just knows Daddy has another house. I never told him more than that. We sat there for what felt like forever. Two women, bound by the same man's lies, sitting in the wreckage of his choices. Finally, Melissa looked at me. What are you going to do? I looked up, meeting her eyes. I don't know, but I'm done being in the bark. As I stood to leave, she reached out and gently touched my hand. I'm sorry, Emma. I really am. I nodded, but I didn't say anything. There were no words that could fix what had been broken. When I walked out of that house, I didn't cry. Not then. Not even when I got into my car and sat there staring at the steering wheel. I just felt empty. But underneath the emptiness, something else was growing. Cold, quiet, rage. He didn't just betray me. He lied to both of us. He built two worlds on top of each other, thinking neither would collapse. But they would. And this time, I wasn't going to sit quietly and let him keep pretending.
I used to believe I could balance both lives. The man my wife thought I was, and the man I became when she wasn't looking. But I was wrong. There's a point where lies stop being shields and start becoming cages, and mine were closing in. For weeks, Emily had been quieter. She'd stopped asking where I was going, stopped questioning the late nights or the last-minute work trips. But her silence wasn't peace. It was precision. She was watching, waiting, and I didn't see it until it was too late. One evening, I came home to find the house darker than usual. No lights, no music, not even the faint smell of her cooking, just stillness. My footsteps echoed across the hardwood floor as I called her name. No answer. Then I saw it, her phone on the kitchen counter, next to a folded note, and my own set of car keys. Inside the note were just 4 words. We need to talk. My stomach twisted. I knew what that meant. It wasn't a question. It wasn't anger. It was the calm before the storm. I found her in the living room, sitting on the couch in the same dress she wore on our first anniversary, the deep green one with the silk straps. She looked beautiful and terrifying at the same time. On the coffee table in front of her was my laptop, open, and a stack of printed emails. She didn't look up when she spoke. How long? I opened my mouth, but nothing came out. Her voice trembled, not with tears, but control. How long, David? How long have you been lying to me? The words fell heavy. I could have lied again. I could have said it was a misunderstanding, or that someone was blackmailing me. But something inside me cracked. Maybe guilt, maybe exhaustion. I sat down across from her, rubbing my face. Since last year. She laughed, short and sharp, almost like a choke. Last year. So all those nights, the trips, the phone calls, you were with her? I nodded. Her eyes shimmered but never broke. I went through your messages. Every photo, every hotel receipt. You didn't even bother hiding them well. The silence after that felt like an execution. Then she stood up and said something I didn't expect. I'm not angry because you cheated. I'm angry because you made me feel crazy for suspecting it. I looked up at her, confused. You made me think I was paranoid. Every time I asked, you looked me in the eye and told me I was imagining things. You gaslit me into doubting my own instincts. That's worse than the affair. Her words cut deeper than any accusation. Because she was right. I didn't just lie. I manipulated her reality.
I didn't mean... She held up her hand. Don't. Don't insult me with apologies now. Then she walked past me, heading upstairs. For a moment, I thought she was leaving, that she'd pack her things and vanish. But she stopped halfway up and said without turning around, "You'll be hearing from my lawyer." And that was it. The sound of the bedroom door clicking shut was the last sound I heard that night. The next few days blurred together. I moved through them like a ghost. No calls, no texts, no appetite. The woman I'd been seeing, Rachel, kept messaging me, but I couldn't bring myself to reply. Everything I'd built was crumbling. And the worst part was, I wasn't even sure which version of my life I wanted to save. On the third day, I finally called Emily's sister, Laura. "She's staying with me," she said flatly. "Can I talk to her?" "She doesn't want to see you. And honestly, David, can you blame her?" I didn't answer. Laura sighed. "She's not crying, you know. She's planning. And that's the part that should scare you." And it did. A week later, I received an email. Not from Emily, but from a blocked address. It contained a single video attachment. No text, no context, just a file named "For You." I hesitated, then pressed play. It was footage from our home's security camera, the one I'd installed last year for safety. But the angle wasn't from inside the house. It was from my car, from the dashcam. Emily must have found a way to pull the footage from when I met Rachel in that cafe. There we are, laughing, touching hands across the table, and worse, I could see myself saying, "She has no idea." The video cut off there, and below it, a timestamp, the night before our 5th anniversary. That's when I realized she wasn't just confronting me emotionally. She was documenting everything. This wasn't rage anymore. It was strategy. Days turned into weeks. Divorce papers arrived, friends stopped calling, even my boss began avoiding eye contact. Word travels fast in a small circle. I had become that guy, the one who ruined his marriage, lost everything, and didn't even have the courage to explain why. But the truth, I didn't cheat because I stopped loving Emily. I cheated because I was terrified of becoming ordinary. With Rachel, I felt alive again, reckless, desired, seen. But that version of me was built on lies, and now all I had left was the hollow echo of both worlds collapsing. Then one night, there was a knock at the door. I opened it to find Emily. She looked different, colder, sharper, but somehow lighter. "Can I come in?" she asked. I nodded, moving aside. She walked in slowly, scanning the room as if it were unfamiliar territory. Then she turned to me. "I'm not here to reconcile," she said. "I just came to say thank you." I blinked. "Thank you?" She smiled faintly. "For freeing me. I spent years trying to be enough for you. Now I realize I was always enough. You just weren't capable of seeing it." I swallowed hard. She stepped closer, just enough for me to catch the scent of her perfume, the same one she wore the night we first met. "By the way, you might want to check your accounts. I already moved what was mine." And then she was gone. Just like that. No tears, no drama, just finality. I stood there for a long time, staring at the door, realizing that the woman I had underestimated for so long had just outplayed me completely. Later that night, I opened my laptop to check the bank statements. She hadn't lied. Half the savings were gone, but something else caught my eye. An email from Rachel. "David, I think someone has been following me. Have you told Emily about us? Please call me." The timestamp was from 2 days ago. My heart sank. Emily's "thank you" wasn't closure. It was a warning. I stepped outside, scanning the dark street. My reflection stared back from the window, tired, haunted, broken. For the first time, I understood what it meant to destroy yourself from the inside out. Because in the end, it wasn't Emily who ruined me. It was me, the man who tried to live 2 lives and lost both.
I didn't sleep that night. Every noise outside made me jolt awake. Every flicker of light through the window felt like someone watching. I kept replaying Emily's words, "Thank you." It wasn't gratitude. It was prophecy. Something was coming. By morning, I'd convinced myself I was overreacting. Guilt had a way of turning paranoia into logic.
I showered, shaved, and told myself to start rebuilding. Maybe move to another city, sell the house, start fresh. But when I opened the front door, I froze. A bouquet of lilies sat on my porch. White, pure, innocent. The kind Emily loved. No note, no card, just flowers. Except lilies were for funerals. I looked around. The street was empty, the air heavy and still. I brought them inside, tossed them into the trash, and tried to shake off the unease. But my phone buzzed before I could even pour a cup of coffee. It was Rachel. Again. "David, please call me. Someone broke into my apartment last night." My pulse quickened. I dialed immediately, but it went straight to voicemail. For the next few hours, I paced. I called again and again. Nothing. Finally, around 3 p.m., I drove to her place across town. The door was slightly ajar. Dewey idle, flickering eyes is somewhere behind the victim, some sense of slowly opening eyes after pain has passed, an image of battered apples and bruised sugar, some image of violence being injected into the picture. The room was in chaos. Drawers pulled out, clothes scattered, a mirror cracked. My stomach twisted when I saw her phone on the floor, screen shattered. And on the kitchen counter, in the middle of the mess, sat a small envelope with my name on it. David. I picked it up with shaking hands. Inside was a single Polaroid photo. It showed me, sleeping in my car. The same night, Emily came to see me. That's when it hit me. She wasn't just watching, she was orchestrating. I drove home fast, every nerve on fire. When I arrived, my laptop was open on the table again. Only this time, it wasn't me who'd left it on. The screen showed a new email. From Emily. Subject, foreclosure. Body, you should see what honesty feels like. There was a link below, a private video upload. I hesitated, then clicked. The video began with Rachel, sitting in what looked like a police interview room. Her face was pale, her eyes red. She was talking to someone off camera. She said, "I didn't know he was married. He told me they were separated." Then she broke down crying. I shouldn't have let her in. My chest tightened. I felt the blood drain from my face. The camera angle shifted, and I realized Emily was the one recording. Emily's voice said from behind the camera, "You lied to both of us. So I just want to know, what does it feel like to be second choice?" Rachel looked up, terrified. "Please, I didn't mean to." The video cut off. I slammed the laptop shut and grabbed my keys. My mind was spinning, rage and panic mixing like gasoline and fire. I needed to find her, to stop her before she did something worse. But when I opened the front door, she was already there. Emily stood on the porch, rain pouring behind her, hair slicked to her face. She looked peaceful, almost serene. "Going somewhere?" she asked softly. "Emily, what did you do?" She tilted her head. "You mean, what you made me do?" Her voice was calm, but her eyes, cold, unrecognizable. She said, "Rachel's fine, for now. I just wanted her to understand the kind of man she was protecting." I stepped closer. "Emily, please, just stop." "Stop?" She laughed bitterly. "You stopped loving me years ago, David. I'm just catching up." The rain hit the porch roof like static. I could hear my heartbeat in my ears. "What do you want?" I finally asked. She smiled faintly. "Nothing. You've already lost everything that mattered." She turned to leave, but then stopped and said without looking back, "Oh, and those lilies? They weren't from me. Maybe someone else is trying to tell you something." Then she walked away into the rain. That night, I could not stay still. I poured a drink, then another, trying to drown the echo of her voice. The walls felt smaller, the air thicker. Every creak made me flinch. Around midnight, I finally went upstairs, but when I reached the bedroom, I froze. The closet door was open. Inside, on the floor, was a black box I'd never seen before. I knelt down and opened it. Inside were dozens of photographs. Me and Rachel. Me leaving her apartment. Me sleeping in my car. Even me sitting at the bar staring at my phone. But one photo stopped my heart. It was Emily standing outside Rachel's building holding a camera. The date on the back was from 2 months ago. She'd known everything all along. By the next morning, Rachel's name was all over the news. Woman found dead in river, foul play suspected. I dropped my coffee cup. It shattered against the floor, but I couldn't move. I just stared at the headline. The article said her car was found abandoned by the bridge. No suspects yet, no witnesses. And then my phone buzzed again. A text message. Unknown number. She jumped because you lied. You can live with that now. No name, but I didn't need one. The police came the next day. They asked questions. Where I'd been, who I'd seen, did I know Rachel personally? I answered what I could, but even as I spoke, I could feel Emily's shadow everywhere. She hadn't killed Rachel. She'd broken her, piece by piece, just like I'd done to her. When the detective left, I sat alone on the couch, staring at the empty space where our wedding photo used to hang. The house felt haunted, not by ghosts, but by truth. Then I noticed something on the mantle, a small USB drive. No note, no label, just the drive. I plugged it into my laptop. It was a recording, our wedding video. Only now it was edited, spliced with clips of me and Rachel. The laughter, the kisses, the lies, all woven into one long cinematic confession. And at the very end, Emily's voice whispered, "Now the world knows who you really are." The file auto-uploaded to multiple email addresses, friends, colleagues, family. I tried to stop it, but it was too late. Within hours, my phone exploded with messages, some angry, some disgusted, others silent. My reputation, my career, gone. But the worst part wasn't losing them. It was realizing Emily had planned this perfectly. Not revenge, retribution. Weeks passed. The investigation ruled Rachel's death a suicide. Emily filed for divorce officially and disappeared somewhere overseas. No address, no trace. Just a ghost of a woman I'd once thought I could control. Every night since, I dream of that moment. Her standing in the rain saying, "You've already lost everything that mattered." She was right, because the real punishment isn't prison or exposure. It's living with the truth when no one believes you anymore. I didn't kill Rachel, but I killed everything good around me. Now when I look in the mirror, I see both men, the one my wife loved and the one who destroyed her. And every morning when I wake up, I whisper to myself the same words Emily wrote in that first note. We need to talk. But there's no one left to listen.